The kitchen glowed with morning light. A toddler's laughter mingled with the sweet scent of cinnamon and bananas. A single dad sipped his coffee, unaware that danger hid in plain sight, in a bowl of oatmeal. But one soul sensed it. A scarred German shepherd, once a war hero, froze in the doorway. His amber eyes didn't waver. His breath barely stirred. In that heavy silence, a secret was unraveling, one that could save a life or shatter a family forever. Before we dive into this heart-pounding tale of loyalty and instinct, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like this prove dogs are more than pets. They're guardians with hearts of steel. Subscribe to K9 Miracle Stories now. What you're about to hear will grip your soul and never let go. Pinewood, a quiet town cradled by pine-draped hills, stirred slowly on a crisp October Wednesday. The air carried the scent of damp leaves and distant wood smoke. A faint chill clung to the morning, seeping to the windows of a modest brick house on Sycamore Lane. Inside, Logan Harper, 38, stood at the kitchen sink. His calloused hand scrubbed a baby bottle under warm water, the soap suds catching the light. His broad shoulders hunched slightly, a habit from years carrying the weight of war as an Army K-9 handler, now replaced by the quieter burdens of single fatherhood. His dark hair was streaked with early gray. His hazel eyes, etched with exhaustion, softened with love as he glanced at his daughter. At the breakfast table, 3-year-old Mia sat in her booster seat. Her golden curls bounced as she swung her tiny legs. Her hazel eyes, mirrors of her father's, sparkled with mischief. She smeared oatmeal across her cheeks, giggling. "Daddy, more, Nana," she chirped, waving a blue plastic spoon like a tiny scepter. Logan chuckled. The sound was warm but heavy, carrying the weight of sleepless nights and endless to-do lists at the fire station. Across from Mia stood Clara Evans, their nanny of 8 months. In her late 20s, Clara had a soft-spoken charm that had won Logan over from their first meeting. Her auburn hair was tied in a loose bun. Her lavender cardigan was slightly wrinkled from chasing Mia through morning routines. "One more bite, princess," she cooed, guiding a spoonful of oatmeal, banana and cinnamon, Mia's favorite, toward the toddler's mouth. Her smile was gentle, practiced, the kind that put parents at ease. But her fingers lingered on the spoon, her eyes flicking to the doorway for a fleeting moment. In that doorway, something was wrong. Ranger, Logan's retired K-9 partner, stood like a statue carved from stone. The 90-pound German shepherd was a shadow of his younger self. Scars crisscrossed his muzzle, souvenirs from a decade of service in Afghanistan. His amber eyes were locked on Clara, unblinking, unrelenting. His tail didn't wag. His ears didn't twitch. His breath was so shallow it barely moved his chest. The air felt thick, as if his stillness had weight. Logan turned from the sink, drying his hands on a faded dish towel. He caught Ranger's posture and froze. The towel slipped in his grip. "Buddy, what's up?" he asked, his voice low, almost a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might break the silence. Ranger didn't move. His body was taut, his focus absolute. Logan's stomach twisted, a familiar knot from years in war zones. He'd seen that look before, on dusty roads in Kandahar, when Ranger sensed a threat no human could detect, like a hidden bomb or an unseen enemy. The desert sun burned overhead. Dust coated Logan's boots, his rifle heavy in his hands. Ranger tried ahead, his nose low, tail stiff. The patrol was routine, sweeping a village road for IEDs. But Ranger froze, his ears rigid, his growl a low rumble. Logan signaled the unit to halt. His heart pounded. Ranger's nose twitched, pinpointing a buried explosive under a pile of rocks. The bomb squad disarmed it. 5 pounds of C for that would have torn them apart. Logan knelt beside Ranger, scratching his ears. "Good boy," he whispered, his voice thick with relief. Ranger's tail wagged once, his eyes steady. That was the first time he saved Logan's life. Back in the kitchen, Clara glanced over, her smile faltering for a fraction of a second. "He's been staring at me all morning," she said, her tone light, but edged with unease, like a breeze carrying the first hint of the storm. "Does he always do that?" "Only when something's off," Logan said, crouching beside Ranger. He ran a hand along the dog's flank, feeling the warm fur, the faint tremor of alertness. Ranger service days were over, retired after a shrapnel wound nearly took his leg in 2016. But his instincts were as sharp as ever. He'd saved Logan's life twice. Once from that IED, once from a collapsing wall during a fire rescue in a burning village. If Ranger was on edge, there was a reason, and it wasn't a game. Logan stood, his eyes flicking to the bowl of oatmeal. It looked normal, creamy, with chunks of banana and a dusting of cinnamon. But Ranger's stillness gnawed at him, like a splinter under his skin, sharp and impossible to ignore. The air was thick with the sweet warmth of cinnamon, undercut by a faint, acrid tang that made Logan's nose twitch, like a warning he couldn't name. "Clara, you make this batch fresh?" he asked, keeping his voice casual, though his pulse quickened. "Of course," she replied, wiping her hands on a napkin with a practiced smile. "Same as always. Oatmeal, banana, a pinch of cinnamon. Mia loves it." Her words were smooth, but her eyes darted to the bowl, too quick to be casual. Logan nodded, but his gut churned. Clara had been a godsend since Mia's mother, Emily Harper, passed 2 years ago in a car accident that left Logan reeling. Clara's background check was clean. Her references, 2 former employers, raved about her patience, her knack for calming fussy toddlers, her spotless record. She was early every morning, patient with Mia's tantrums, left the house spotless. She'd even baked cookies for Logan's fire station crew once, winning them over with her Midwestern charm. But Ranger didn't trust easily, and Ranger was never wrong. Logan stood by a rain-slicked highway, red and blue lights flashing in the dark. The wreckage of Emily's car was unrecognizable, twisted metal under a street lamp. Mia, just one, was safe at home with a sitter, but Emily was gone. Logan's knees buckled. Ranger pressed against him, a steady warmth, whining softly. "I'm trying, buddy," Logan whispered, his voice breaking. "I don't know how to do this without her." Ranger stayed, his muzzle on Logan's knee, as the paramedics worked in vain. Back in the present, Logan reached for the bowl, pretending to inspect it. His fingers brushed the rim. A faint scent hit him, not just banana or cinnamon, but something sharp, almost chemical, like antifreeze or metal cleaner. His heart skipped. "I'm going to take Mia to daycare early today," he said, lifting his daughter from the chair, her small arms wrapped around his neck, her spoon clattering to the table, leaving a smear of oatmeal. "You can head out, Clara. I've got this." Clara's smile tightened, a crack in her porcelain mask. "Everything okay, Logan?" she asked, her voice steady but her eyes searching his. "Yeah," he lied, cradling Mia against his chest, her warmth grounding him. "Just got a busy day at the station." As Clara grabbed her purse, a beige tote bag, heavy with unseen weight, and slipped out the front door, Logan locked the deadbolt behind her. The click echoed in his chest. Ranger stayed by his side, eyes fixed on the kitchen table, as if the threat lingered in the air like smoke. Logan set Mia down in the living room with her stuffed giraffe, her favorite toy. He grabbed a Ziploc bag from the drawer, scraped a sample of the oatmeal inside, and sealed it tight. His hands shook, but he steadied them. His training kicked in. He wasn't paranoid. He was a father, and Ranger was his partner. Have you ever seen a dog act like they sensed something you couldn't? Maybe a strange stare or a sudden growl. Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. Logan's old Ford truck rumbled down Pinewood's Main Street. The engine's low growl blended with Mia's babbling from her car seat. She sang about Ranger Doggy in her favorite cartoon, her voice a bright contrast to the storm brewing in Logan's mind. Ranger sat in the back, his head low but alert. His amber eyes scanned the world outside the window, ears twitching at every sound. A car horn, a dog barking, the wind rustling the pines. Logan's hands gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles pale. He wasn't a man who jumped conclusions. But Ranger's behavior wasn't random. The dog had sniffed out explosives in war zones, tracked insurgents through desert storms, dragged Logan from a burning building with his jaws gentle but firm. If Ranger was spooked, there was a threat. And Logan wasn't taking chances with his daughter. He pulled into the parking lot of Pinewood Veterinary Clinic, A small brick building with a faded sign and a single oak tree out front. The gravel crunched under his tires. Dr. Sarah Klein, a friend from his army days, ran the place. She worked with military dogs overseas, testing for toxins in war zones where a single mistake could mean disaster. If anyone could analyze the oatmeal without raising alarms, it was her. Sarah met him at the door, pushing her glasses up her nose. Her dark hair was in a messy ponytail, her lab coat wrinkled from a long morning of treating anxious pets. Logan Harper, as I live and breathe, she said, her smile warm but curious, her eyes catching the tension in his face. What's with a serious face? You look like you're back in Kandahar. He handed her the Ziploc bag, the oatmeal inside looking deceptively ordinary. Need you to run a tox screen on this. Discreetly. Sarah raised an eyebrow, holding the bag up to the light. Oatmeal? This for Mia? Logan nodded, his jaw tight, his voice barely above a whisper. Ranger's acting like it's a threat. I need to know why. Sarah's expression softened. She knew Ranger's history, his medals for bravery, his scars from shrapnel, his unshakable loyalty to Logan. She'd stitched him up once after a blast in Kandahar, her hand steady as Ranger whimpered under her care. I'll run it through the mass spectrometer, she said, slipping the bag into her pocket. Results by tomorrow morning. You okay, Logan? Not yet, he said, glancing at Mia, who was petting Ranger through the truck window, her tiny fingers tangling in his fur. But I will be. Logan stood in a dusty training yard, the air heavy with the scent of diesel and dog chow. Ranger limped slightly, his hind legs scarred from shrapnel. The Army vet handed Logan the discharge papers. He's done his time, the vet said, but he's not going to like sitting still. Ranger whined, nudging Logan's hand, as if begging to stay on duty. Back home, Ranger paced the house for weeks, barking at shadows, sniffing every corner, his instincts still wired for war. Logan knelt beside him one night, his voice soft. You're home, buddy. You're safe. But Ranger's eyes stayed alert, always watching. Back home, Logan couldn't shake the unease that clung to him like damp clothes. He set Mia up in the living room with her wooden blocks, the TV playing a loop of nursery rhymes to keep her distracted. Ranger lay nearby, his body sprawled across the faded rug, but his eyes never left the front door. Logan pulled out his phone and opened the Nanny Cam app. He'd installed the camera in the living room months ago, mostly to check on Mia during naps or when he was called into the fire station for an emergency shift. It didn't cover the kitchen directly, but it caught the edge of the counter where Clara prepared meals, a sliver of the space where the oatmeal was made. He scrubbed through the footage from that morning, his pulse quickening. At 7:15 a.m., Clara entered the frame, setting her beige tote bag on the counter, heavy, as if it carried more than just her wallet and keys. She glanced around, quick, almost nervous, her eyes darting to the hallway where Logan was washing dishes. Then she pulled out a small glass vial, no bigger than a perfume sample. She unscrewed the cap, tapped a few drops into the oatmeal, and stirred. Her movements were deliberate, practiced, like a chef adding a secret ingredient. Logan's blood ran cold. He paused the video, zooming in on the vial. It was unmarked, but the liquid inside glinted faintly under the kitchen light, a pale, almost translucent green. His hand shook, the phone nearly slipping from his grip. Ranger lifted his head, sensing Logan's tension, and let out a low whine, a sound that cut through the silence like a blade. You saw it, didn't you? Logan whispered, scratching Ranger's ears, the dog's warmth grounding him. You knew. He sent a screenshot to Detective Mark Torres, a former colleague from the fire station who joined the Pinewood Police Department 2 years ago. Mark had been at Logan's side during late-night calls, pulling people from burning cars and collapsed buildings. If anyone would take this seriously, it was him. Need you to look at this, Logan texted. Something's wrong with my nanny. Mark replied within minutes. On my way. Don't do anything until I get there. Keep Mia close. Logan paced the living room, his boots scuffing the hardwood. His eyes darted between Mia and the front door. Mia stacked her blocks, humming softly, oblivious to the storm brewing inside her father. Ranger stayed close, his body tense, as if he sensed the danger wasn't gone, as if it lingered like smoke. Logan's mind raced, replaying every moment with Clara, her warm smiles, her gentle voice, the way she'd braid Mia's hair or sing her to sleep. How had he missed it? How had he let a stranger into their lives? Logan glanced at Clara's tote bag, left behind in her rush to leave. It sat on the counter, a bulge in the side pocket, catching his eye. He unzipped it, his hands hesitant. Inside was a creased envelope, addressed to Emily, in faded ink, no last name. A single line was scrawled on the back. You can't keep running. Logan's breath caught. He slipped the envelope into his pocket, his heart pounding. Who was Emily? And why was Clara carrying her mail? Have you ever found something that made you question someone you trusted? A note? A message? A look? Share your experience in the comments below. Mark arrived just after 9 a.m., his police cruiser parked discreetly down the street to avoid nosy neighbors. He sat at Logan's kitchen table, his dark eyes scanning the nanny cam screenshot on Logan's phone. His navy jacket was unzipped, his badge glinting faintly under fluorescent light. The Tots report from Sarah wasn't ready, but the footage was damning. A clear image of Clara adding something to Mia's oatmeal, her face calm but focused, like she'd done 100 times. This is bad, Logan, Mark said, rubbing his jaw, his voice low and steady. If she's tampered with Mia's food, we're looking at attempted poisoning. But we need more than a screenshot to make an arrest. We need the tox report. We need to know what's in that vial. Logan's hands clenched into fists, his nails digging into his palms. She's been in my house for 8 months, Mark. Feeding my kid, bathing her, singing to her. And all this time, his voice broke, the weight of his failure crashing down like a collapsing roof. He'd trusted Clara, led her into their lives, and now his daughter was in danger. Mark put a hand on his shoulder, his grip firm but kind. We'll get her, Logan, but we need to do this by the book. I ran Clara's name last night after you texted. Clara Evans doesn't exist. The ID she gave you is a forgery, clean but fake. We're digging deeper. But I think she's got a history. Logan's heart sank, a cold weight in his chest. He'd hired Clara through a reputable agency, one with glowing reviews and a rigorous screening process. He'd called her references himself, spoken to 2 former employers who raved about her patience, her knack for calming fussy toddlers, her spotless record. She'd seemed perfect, too perfect, maybe, and yet Ranger had seen through her from the start, his instincts sharper than any background check. What kind of history? Logan asked, his voice low, barely containing the anger simmering beneath. Mark hesitated, glancing at the screenshot. Found a flagged alias in Ohio. Child endangerment 5 years ago. She served 2 years, changed her name, and vanished. We're pulling court records, but it's slow, out-of-state bureaucracy. If it's her, she's been playing a long game. Logan's mind reeled, 1,000 questions crashing together. Why my daughter? Why us? We don't know yet, Mark said, his voice grim. But people like this, they don't always need a reason. Sometimes it's opportunity. Sometimes it's something darker. Logan nodded, his jaw tight. He glanced at Mia, playing on the living room floor, stacking blocks into a wobbly tower, while Ranger watched over her. She's not coming near my kid again, he said, his voice hard as steel. Mark nodded. Keep her out of the house. Change the locks if you haven't already. I'm putting a bolo out for her vehicle, a blue Honda Civic. We'll bring her in for questioning as soon as we find her. As Mark stood to leave, Logan's neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, knocked on the door. Her gray hair was pulled back, her eyes worried. I saw Clara's car last night, she said, her voice shaky. Parked down the street, after midnight. She was just sitting there, watching your house. I thought it was odd. Logan's stomach twisted. He thanked her, his mind racing. Why was Clara watching them? After Mark left, Logan knelt beside Mia, brushing a curl from her forehead. She grinned, holding out a block. Bill, Daddy, she said, her voice bright. Logan forced a smile, his heart aching. He'd do anything to keep that light in her eyes. He pulled a mysterious envelope from his pocket, turning it over. The words you can't keep running stared back, a chilling promise he couldn't ignore. 8 months ago, Logan sat in a coffee shop, interviewing Clara. Her smile was warm, her resume impeccable. "I love kids," she said, her voice soft. "Especially ones like Mia. So full of life." Logan nodded, desperate for help after months of juggling work and fatherhood alone. Ranger was there, lying at his feet, but his ears were stiff, his eyes fixed on Clara. Logan missed it then, too caught up in her charm. Now, he cursed himself for ignoring Ranger's warning. Has a pet ever helped you through a tough time, like Ranger did for Logan? Maybe they sense danger, or just stayed by your side. Share your story in the comments below. The next morning, Logan's phone buzzed before he poured his coffee. It was Sarah, her voice tight with urgency. "You sitting down, Logan?" she asked. "Go ahead," he said, bracing himself, his heart pounding. The oatmeal had ethylene glycol, antifreeze, low dose, but enough to cause kidney damage over time, especially in a kid Mia's size. Logan, this was an accident. His vision tunneled, the kitchen walls closing in. He gripped the phone, his knuckles white, the mug in his other hand trembling. "You're sure?" "Positive," Sarah said. "I ran it twice. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. It's odorless in small amounts, easy to hide in food. If Mia had eaten more, we'd be looking at organ failure within days." Logan's mind flashed to Mia's laughter, her tiny hands clutching that spoon, her trust in the woman who'd fed her poison. He felt sick, bile rising in his throat. "Thanks, Sarah. Can you write it up? I'm taking this to the police." "Already drafting the report," she said, her voice softening. "Be careful, Logan. Whoever did this is dangerous. They're not going to stop unless they're caught." He hung up and called Mark. "I've got proof," he said, forwarding the nanny cam screenshot and Sarah's preliminary findings. "Clara's poisoning my daughter." Mark's voice was grim. "Stay put. I'm coming over with a warrant. We'll bring her in today." Logan sat at the kitchen table, staring at the bowl of oatmeal, still sealed in the Ziploc bag. The scent had faded, but the memory of that sharp, chemical smell lingered, a ghost in the air. He thought of Mia's giggles, her trust in Clara, his own blindness. How had he missed it? How had he let this happen under his own roof? Ranger nudged his leg, grounding him with a low whine. Logan knelt beside the dog, pressing his forehead to Ranger's, the dog's fur warm against his skin. "You knew," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You always know." Logan checked the nanny cam again, combing older footage. A clip from 3 days ago showed Clara in the kitchen, alone, stirring Mia's juice. She whispered to herself, her voice barely audible. "It's better this way. She won't feel it." Then she pulled a small notebook from her purse, scribbling furiously. Logan froze the frame, zooming in. The cover read M schedule. Mia's schedule. His heart pounded. She'd been tracking them, planning every move. Mark arrived with another officer, both in plain clothes to avoid attention. They sat at the kitchen table, reviewing the footage and Tox report. The screenshot showed Clara's hand, the vial, the deliberate stir. The report confirmed ethylene glycol, a poison that could kill slowly, disguised as a stomach bug. "We're bringing her in," Mark said, his voice steady but urgent. "But she's not at her apartment. Neighbor says she hasn't been home since yesterday. We check her phone, it's off. No credit card activity, no GPS pings." Logan's stomach dropped, a cold sweat on his neck. "She's running." "Maybe," Mark said, his eyes narrowing. "Or she's planning something else. We got a bolo out for her car, and we're checking motels and bus stations. She can't get far." Logan sat on the couch that night, the house dark except for a single lamp. Mia slept upstairs, her snores a fragile comfort through the baby monitor. He stared at a photo of Emily, his late wife, her smile frozen in time. "I failed her, Em," he whispered, his voice raw. "I let a stranger into our home. I didn't see it." Ranger lay at his feet, whining softly, his muzzle on Logan's knee. Logan buried his face in his hands, the weight of his guilt like a stone. What would you do if you found out someone you trusted was dangerous? Would you confront them or call for help? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Logan couldn't sleep. He sat on the couch, the house dark except for the soft glow of a lamp. Ranger lay at his feet, eyes half open, guarding the room even in rest. Mia's snores came through the baby monitor, a lifeline proving she was safe. The air smelled of coffee and wood polish, but Logan's mind was elsewhere, replaying Clara's smiles, her gentle voice, the way she'd braid Mia's hair. She'd been perfect, too perfect. And all that time, she'd been slipping poison into his daughter's food. He checked the nanny cam again, desperate for clues. A clip from a week ago showed Clara standing in the kitchen, staring out the window for 10 minutes while Mia played nearby. Her lips moved, whispering to herself, her eyes distant. Another clip showed her scribbling in her notebook, her hands shaking. Logan froze the frame, zooming in. The writing was erratic. Mia trusts me now. The dog's a problem. He knows. His blood ran cold. Another clip, from 2 nights ago, caught Claire on her phone in the living room, her voice low. "It's almost time," she whispered. No one suspects. But the dog, he's watching. Logan's heart raced. Who was she talking to? Was someone else involved? He sent the clip to Mark, his hands trembling. Logan checked the locks for the 3rd time, his boots heavy on the hardwood. Ranger followed, his claws clicking softly, his presence a steady anchor. Logan paused at the front door, peering through the peephole. The street was empty, but the unease didn't fade. He pulled the envelope from his pocket, the words you can't keep running burning in his mind. The next morning, Mark called, his voice tense. Her real name's Emily Kessler. Rap sheet in Ohio. Child endangerment 2017. Served 2 years. Changed her name to Clara Evans and vanished. We found her last known address, a motel 20 miles out. We're checking it now. Logan's grip tightened, his knuckles aching. Why my daughter? Why us? We don't know, Mark said, but her notebook, it's got entries about Mia. Her routines, her favorite foods, your fire station shifts. She was obsessed, Logan. This wasn't random. Mark emailed Logan a court document, grainy but legible. Emily Kessler, then 24, had poisoned a 5-year-old boy in Ohio, slipping antifreeze into his milk. She'd posed as a nanny, charming a single mom. The boy survived, but Emily's therapy notes were chilling. I needed him to need me, to stay sick, to stay mine. Logan's stomach churned. Mia was her next target. Logan's heart pounded. Find her, Mark, before she comes back. Logan called an old army buddy, Tom, an IT specialist. Can you track her phone? Logan asked. Tom hacked into cell tower data, finding a faint ping from Clara's phone near a remote cabin 30 miles away. She turned it on for a minute last night, Tom said. Then it went dark. Logan forwarded the info to Mark, his mind racing. Was she hiding or planning something worse? Have you ever trusted someone who turned out to be someone else? A friend, a coworker, a stranger? Share your experience in the comments below. 2 days later, Mia spiked a fever. It was low grade, but enough to make her fussy, her cheeks flushed, her eyes glassy. Logan rushed her to Dr. Alan Carter, the pediatrician who'd known Mia since birth. The waiting room smelled of disinfectant and crayons. Mia clutched her stuffed giraffe, whimpering as Logan held her close. Dr. Carter reviewed her chart, his face serious, his bow tie crooked. Her labs show slight renal stress, he said, his voice calm but concerned. Consistent with low-dose antifreeze exposure. She's stable, but we need to monitor her. Push fluids, keep her cool, bring her back tomorrow. Logan's world tilted. He held Mia tighter, her small body warm against his chest, her heartbeat a fragile rhythm. Is she going to be okay? He asked, his voice a whisper. She should be, Dr. Carter said, his eyes kind. But if Ranger hadn't stopped her from eating that oatmeal, we'd be having a different conversation. You're lucky to have that dog. Back home, Logan set Mia in her crib, a cool cloth on her forehead. She stirred, her voice tiny. Doggy, you stay? No go away? Ranger lay at the crib's base, his muzzle on his paws, eyes fixed on her. He whined softly, as if promising to stay. Mia smiled, clutching her giraffe, her trust in Ranger unshakable. Logan's heart ached. She was so small, so fragile, yet Ranger saw her as his mission. Logan drove home in a daze, Ranger's eyes never leaving Mia in her car seat. When they got home, Logan knelt beside the dog, pressing his forehead to Ranger's. "You saved her," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You saved my little girl." That night, Logan heard a creak from the back porch, like a footstep on loose wood. Ranger growled, his hackles rising, his body coiled. Logan grabbed his flashlight and service pistol, moving silently to the window. His heart pounded, adrenaline flooding his veins. A shadow shifted near the shed, small and hooded, moving fast. Logan's pulse slammed. He texted Mark. "Someone's here. Backyard. Get here now." He crept outside, Ranger aside, the dog's movements silent, precise. The air was cold, the grass damp under Logan's boots, the night thick with pine and earth. The shadow paused near the shed door, a flashlight beam darting across the lock, glinting off a small bottle in their hand. "Freeze! Hands up now!" Logan shouted, his pistol steady, his voice cutting the night. The figure spun, dropping the flashlight, the beam rolling across the grass. It was Clara, Emily Kessler. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with panic, her auburn hair spilling from her hood. "Logan, wait! I wasn't." Ranger lunged, not to attack, but to block, his body a wall of muscle between Logan and Emily. His teeth were bared, his growl low, his eyes locked on her like a laser. "You fed my daughter poison," Logan said, his voice shaking with rage, his finger steady on the trigger. "You looked her in the eyes, smiled, and tried to kill her. Why, Emily? Why Mia?" "I was saving her." Emily stammered, tears streaming down her face, her hands trembling. "She needed me, Logan. You don't understand. She'd be better with me. You're too busy, too broken. I could have been her family." Logan's stomach twisted, disgust mixing with disbelief. "You're sick," he spat, his voice low and dangerous. "You don't help a child by hurting them." Emily's eyes darted, her voice frantic. "I lost everything in Ohio," she said, her words tumbling out. "They took my boy away, said I wasn't fit. But Mia, she loved me. I could have made her mine. The antifreeze, it was just to keep her close, to make her need me." Ranger growled louder, stepping closer, his presence a warning. Logan's finger tightened on the trigger, his anger a white-hot fire. Headlights flooded the yard, red and blue lights pulsing. Mark's cruiser screeched to a stop. Two officers sprinted toward them, boots crunching on gravel. "Emily Kessler, you're under arrest," Mark barked, his hand on his holster. He cuffed her as she sobbed, her body slumping against the shed. Logan lowered his gun, his hand shaking, his breath ragged. Ranger stayed put, guarding him until the officers took her away, her cries fading into the night. Have you ever had a pet protect you, or someone you love, in a way you didn't expect? Share your story in the comments. We want to hear how your animals became heroes. The next morning, Logan sat in the Pinewood police station, a gray concrete building smelling of coffee and old paper. He gave his statement, his voice steady but heavy, recounting the confrontation, the footage, the tox report. Emily had confessed to the antifreeze, the fake identity, her obsession with saving Mia by making her sick. "She's got Munchausen by proxy," Mark explained, sliding a folder across the table, his eyes dark with exhaustion. "She craves the attention of being a caregiver, even if it means hurting someone. Her notebook mentions Mia over and over, how she was perfect, how she could fix her by keeping her close." Logan skimmed the notebook, his stomach churning. Pages were filled with erratic scrawls. "Mia trusts me now. She doesn't cry when I hold her. The dog's the problem. He knows." Sketches of Mia's crib, Logan's truck, Ranger's face, his eyes scratched out with angry pen marks, as if Emily could erase his vigilance. "She hated Ranger," Logan said, his voice low, almost a growl, "because he saw through her from the start." Mark nodded, his jaw tight. "She admitted she planned to increase the dose." If Ranger hadn't acted, Mia could have been an organ failure by now. She targeted you because you're a single dad, vulnerable, stretched thin. She's done it before in Ohio. The folder included therapy notes from Emily's Ohio case. She'd written about the boy she poisoned. He was mine to care for. I made him need me. No one else could do it right. The words echoed her confession about Mia, a chilling pattern. Logan closed the folder, his hands shaking. She'd chosen Mia because she saw weakness in Logan's grief, his long hours, his trust. What happens to her now? Logan asked, his voice thick. She's facing multiple charges, Mark said. Attempted poisoning of a minor, identity fraud, endangering a child, parole violation. The DA's pushing for no bail. She's not going anywhere. Logan exhaled, relief mixing with lingering anger. He looked at a photo on the table. Ranger, taken during his service days, standing proud beside Logan in the desert, his fur dusted with sand. He's the reason we're still here, Logan said, his voice breaking. Mark nodded, a faint smile breaking through. That dog's a hero, Logan. Always has been. That afternoon, Logan returned home to find a basket on his porch. Homemade muffins, a card from neighbors, and a drawing from a local kid showing Ranger with a cape. A note read, "We're with you, Logan. Ranger's our hero too." Logan's throat tightened. He hadn't realized how much Pinewood was watching, rooting for them. Have you ever seen a community come together for a hero, human or animal? Share your story in the comments below. The county lifted Ranger's quarantine the next day. The behavioral evaluation and tox report cleared his name unanimously. The local news ran a story. Retired K-9 hero exposes poisoning plot against toddler. Ranger's picture was everywhere. His scarred muzzle, his steady amber eyes, a symbol of loyalty and courage. Logan drove to the animal shelter, his truck rattling over the gravel lot. The facility smelled of bleach and wet fur. Ranger was in a kennel, lie on a foam mat, his ears perking as Logan approached. When the door opened, Ranger didn't leap. He padded forward, head low, tail swaying, and pressed his muzzle into Logan's palm. A silent reunion. "I missed you, buddy," Logan whispered, his voice thick, his eyes burning. The shelter tech, a young woman with a sleeve of tattoos, handed Logan the leash. "He's been a model guest," she said. Didn't growl, didn't pace. Just watched, like he knew you'd come. Logan clipped on Ranger's leash, his hands steady. As they walked to the truck, shelter workers clapped softly, their faces lit with admiration. One handed Logan a bone-shaped treat. "He's not like the others," she said. He knew something was wrong from the start. Back home, Mia squealed when she saw Ranger. "Doggy," she cried, toddling over to hug him, her arms barely reaching his neck. Ranger sat patiently, letting her bury her face in his fur, his tail wagging like a metronome. Logan watched, his heart swelling. The house felt whole again, the shadows of fear retreating. That evening, Mia sneaked Ranger a treat from her snack plate, giggling as he took it gently from her hand. "Doggy good," she whispered, curling up beside him on the rug. Ranger didn't move, his eyes soft, letting her rest against him. Logan smiled, his throat tight. Ranger wasn't just a protector. He was Mia's friend, her hero. Has your pet ever shown loyalty in a way that surprised you? Maybe a small gesture or a big save. Share your story in the comments below. Saturday, Pinewood's town square buzzed with life. The mayor organized a thank you event for Ranger, but it felt like a hero's welcome. Booths lined the streets, offering dog toys, homemade treats, and lemonade. Kids ran to the grass, wearing stickers. K9 has saved lives in bold red. A coffee shop sold a Ranger blend, a dark roast with cinnamon, donating proceeds to shelter. Logan stood off to the side, Ranger at his feet, wearing a new vest. Hero, retired K9 in gold embroidery. Mia held Logan's hand, clutching a bouquet of sunflowers from their backyard. The mayor took the stage, his voice booming through a megaphone, his tie flapping in the breeze. "For valor, instinct, and unwavering protection of an innocent child, we recognize Ranger as an honorary protector of Pine County," he said. The crowd erupted in applause. Ranger barked once, his tail wagging, ears up. Mia giggled. "Doggy happy," she said, toddling forward to hand her sunflowers to the mayor. He knelt, hugging her, his smile wide. Mia turned and hugged Ranger, who licked her ear, making her squeal. Camera shutters clicked, capturing the moment for newspapers and social media. People approached Logan, their faces lit with gratitude. Some petted Ranger, their hands gentle on his scarred fur. Others shared stories of dogs who sensed danger, warned of fires, comforted through dark times. An older man, a Vietnam vet with deep scars on his forearms, gripped Logan's hand. "Worked with dogs in Nam," he said, his voice rough. "They save more lives than we gave them credit for. Don't let anyone call him a pet." "I won't," Logan said, his voice catching, his eyes burning. A local girl, no older than 10, handed Mia a drawing. Ranger with a cape, Mia smiling beside him. "He's my hero," she said shyly. Mia beamed, hugging the paper to her chest. Logan's throat tightened. Pinewood wasn't just a town. It was a family, and Ranger had brought them together. Have you ever seen a hero, human or animal, bring a community together? Share your story in the comments below. Weeks later, the house on Sycamore Lane felt different. The tension was gone, replaced by the warm smell of cinnamon muffins and Mia's laughter. Logan drank coffee from his chipped mug, painted with Mia's stickers, instead of carrying it half full, forgotten in the chaos. Mia's fever was gone, her labs normal, her smile brighter than ever. Logan installed a second nanny cam, a precaution, a promise to never trust blindly again. He took a part-time role teaching K-9 response at the police academy, bringing Ranger to demonstrate. The recruits hung on every move, asking about the case. Logan kept it simple. "He saved my family. That's all you need to know." In spring, Logan and Mia visited his sister Rachel in the mountains. They hiked winding trails, fished in a clear stream, watched fireflies dance. Ranger chased squirrels, his tail wagging, but never strayed far from